Okay, guys, we're going to start our third section today, and I just realized that I ended the last one too early. Actually, the second lesson was supposed to be part of yesterday's reading, so we're going to go ahead and cover it real quick. And I apologize. I thought this is where I stopped. It wasn't. So, you know, anyway, you may have to go back if you're doing these day by day and answer a few of the questions off of what I'm going to start talking about today. So, the second lesson in that section on page 53 begins with Eddie kind of coming to realize what happened to his captain and just kind of losing it. If you'll remember, we didn't talk about this yesterday, but when Eddie rushed in to go try to say whatever he thought he saw in that hut, he gets all of a sudden it's like all of the concept of war and everything catches up to him. He just gets sick to his stomach. Because what we learned is that Eddie has hardened himself, but Eddie's not a hard person. And we're about to find out in a few minutes more about what had hardened him before and after this when we learn about some of his family memories. But anyway, the second lesson comes up, and I want to read this section to you. It says, "The captain nodded and looked away. The hills had returned to their barren state, the animal bones in the broken cart, and the smoldering remains of the village." Eddie realized this was the captain's burial ground. No funeral, no coffin, just his shattered skeleton and the muddy earth. "You've been waiting here all this time," Eddie whispered. "Time," the captain said, "is not what you think." He sat down next to Eddie. "Dying, not the end of everything. We think it is, but what happens on Earth is only the beginning." Eddie looked lost. "I figure it's like in the Bible, the Adam and Eve deal," the captain said. "Adam's first night on Earth, when he lays down to sleep, he thinks it's all over, right? He doesn't know what sleep is. His eyes are closing and he thinks he's leaving the world, right? Only he isn't. He wakes up the next morning and he has a fresh new world to work with, but he has something else too. He has his yesterday." The captain grinned. "The way I see it, that's what we're getting here, soldier. That's what heaven is. You get to make sense of your yesterdays." Now, once again, I realize that's going to be contrary to what a lot of us think about the concept of heaven, but I think it's a cool little statement nonetheless. The idea that getting to make sense of your yesterdays, and I hope there's an element of heaven where God does we have a conversation, he explains to us, how we fit into the picture and how we mattered. Let's helps us make sense of our yesterdays. I love that sentence, by the way. So going on, the captain points out, "I've been waiting on you." Eddie looked down. He said, "That's what the blue man said." He said, "Well, he was too. He was part of your life, part of why you lived and how you lived, part of the story you needed to know. But he told you, and he's beyond here now. And in a short bit, I'm going to be as well. So listen up, because here's what you need to know from me." And Eddie felt his back straighten. Now, that's where we were supposed to stop. But the captain kind of sets up, here's your big message. And the message is going to be about sacrifice. It's the very first word of the next section. Um, so again, I know I'm reading a lot today, but I feel like Mitch Albom's words are so powerful. There's no reason for me to try to step on them. This is the captain speaking. He says, "You didn't get it. Sacrifice is a part of life. It's supposed to be. It's not something to regret. It's something to aspire to. Little sacrifices, big sacrifices. A mother works so her son can go to school. A daughter moves home to take care of her sick father. A man goes to war." He stopped for a moment and looked off at the cloudy gray sky. That's Eddie that says that, I think. Um, Really, actually, that was the captain still speaking. I'm sorry, the way it's arranged, it confused me. Uh, this is this is the message here. It's about sacrifice. And guys, let me derail a second and talk about this. We think about when someone makes a sacrifice for us, we feel like it's like we owe them something because they went out of their way to do something for us. It's obviously hurting them or causing them financial or time or something, some sort of stress. And often we feel like Eddie does right here, and probably not to this level, but Eddie's like, the captain died so that we wouldn't. Because what he points out in a minute is if he doesn't jump out and move that gate, or if they just drive through or something, they hit that landmine and everybody's dead. So, but the captain points out something about sacrifice that I think is really important for us to realize. It's not the way we see it. It's something it's not a regret. It's not a, man, I lost my life, but at least I saved these other people. He says something we should aspire to. It's something we should strive for the ability to sacrifice, whether it's small things like your time or, some money, or whether it's a big thing like even your life, that this is a valiant thing we should reach for. Now, not stupidly, but I mean, the fact is to be given a chance to give of yourself to help others is the way we're built. We're supposed to be that way. It's why, when you think about parents and all they do for their kids and all they sacrifice, your parents aren't sitting at home resenting you that they had to do that. They're not. It's we feel good being able to sacrifice for others. I don't know if you've ever done that. It's like, when you see, even if it's something as simple as, you got $5 in your pocket and you see a homeless person and you give them that $5. It's my last $5 I've got. But I've never walked away from that kind of experience feeling bad. I've always felt better, because sacrifice is a positive. It's something we should strive for, to be able to help others. Um, they point out the guy that was killed back at the POW camp, Rebozo. It says Rebozo didn't die for nothing, He sacrificed for his country, and his family knew it. And his kid brother went on to be a good soldier and a great man because he was inspired by it. And again, that's that thing about how we're pieces in a bigger picture. And we think of ourselves as starring in this game, in this movie called life. I'm the star, but you're not. You're the star of yours, but there's a bigger picture that's forming, and we're just a piece. And you never know what impact you as that piece has. Eddie points out, he's like, but you lost your life. And the captain says, that's the thing. Sometimes when you sacrifice something precious, you're not really losing it. You're just passing it on to someone else. And I love that idea. It's like, I didn't lose my life. I gave it so that you three could have it. And he feels like that's a good trade. And you know what? He's not wrong. He says, I shot you all right, he said, and you lost something, but you gained something as well. You just don't know it yet. I gained something too. What? I got to keep my promise. I didn't leave you behind. He held out his palm. Forgive me about the leg? Eddie thought for a moment. He thought about the bitterness after his wounding, his anger at all he'd given up. Then he thought of what the captain had given up, and he felt ashamed. He offered his hand, and the captain gripped it tightly. That's what I've been waiting for. And at that point, the captain's gone. He was waiting there for that so that he could speak to Eddie, convey this message, and he felt like he needed Eddie's forgiveness. But Eddie realized at the last minute that there's nothing to forgive. The man did everything to help him, and he lived numerous decades later because of what this man did for him. And that's a powerful description, and that's just a powerful message for us to have. And the captain isn't gone yet. Captain Eddie said, yeah, why here? You can pick anywhere to wait, right? That's what the blue man said. Why this place? The captain smiled. Because I died in battle. I was killed in these hills. I left the world having known almost nothing but war. War talk, war plans, a war family. My wish was to see what the world looked like without a war before we started killing each other. Now, of course, if you're reading carefully, that should have given you pause. You're like, they're in the middle of the war. What does he mean that he wanted to see what the world was like without war? And Eddie points it out. He says, but this is war. To you, but our eyes are different, the captain said. What you see ain't what I see. He lifted a hand and the smoldering landscape transformed. The rubble melted, trees grew and spread, the ground turned from mud to lush green grass. The murky clouds pulled apart like curtains, revealing a sapphire sky. A light white mist fell in above the treetops, and a peach-colored sun hung brilliantly above the horizon, reflected in the sparkling oceans that now surrounded the island. It was pure, unspoiled, untouched beauty. So the captain's like, this is what I'm seeing, not what you're seeing. And then he also, and it's a joke that Mitch Albom developed earlier, and he pays off now. You might have thought earlier he was being kind of flippant about heaven by having the captain smoke. But look at this detail. By the way, I don't smoke anymore. That was all in your eyes too, he chuckled. Why would I smoke in heaven? He began to walk off. So at that point, the captain kind of jokingly says, what you're seeing is not what's reality. This isn't the truth of things. It's just this, it's the way you're seeing the world. And then Eddie asks, as he walks away, he asks the same thing he asked the blue man. He's like, the girl at the pier, did I save her? And the captain says, I don't know. I can't tell you. But he tosses him his dog tags, and then he's gone. And that's the end of it. Okay, then I've told you guys, when you see the date, like we have Monday, 7:30 a.m., this is the bottom of page 57. When you see that, we're getting a modern thing. So we're fast forward back to like just after Eddie's death. The pier's still shut down, we basically get, and they're waiting to see if it's going to reopen. But I want you to notice there's a little bit of a message in this. The idea is that Eddie's just died, and they're already thinking about moving on and what's the next thing. And guys, this is going to be kind of part of what we see at the end of this, is that, people die and the world goes on and things keep, the globe keeps on spinning, and it's just, that's sad, but then again, it's not, because like I said, we're pieces of this puzzle. We're not the entire puzzle. So the world has to keep going, and then our sacrifices and the things we've done carry on into other people. Okay, then we get the third person that Eddie meets in heaven, and you don't get in the if you're just doing the readings by day, you won't know who this is yet. The reading, even if you've done this part, they haven't told you who it is yet. He gives you a red herring. Mitch Albom does. You think it's going to be Eddie's father. It's not. Okay, so Eddie comes back to, and he appears in this like he sees this diner basically, and he looks in there and he sees a lot of people. He sees this waitress, just a typical diner setting. And then, at the top of page, I think it's 59, you get what he saw he could not have seen. No, he heard himself whisper. He turned back from the door. He drew deep breaths. His heart pounded. He spun around and looked again, then banged wildly on the window panes. No, Eddie yelled. No, no. I mean, he's irate, and we find out that what he sees in this diner is he sees his dad sitting at a table. So, the way the last two have been set up, we're kind of led to believe that he's about to sit down, and his third person is his dad. And guys, it's not. All right. We'll find out tomorrow who it was. But then we get another today is Eddie's birthday, and this is going to be a birthday after he's come back from the war. He's hurt. We get to see this really tender family moment, though, as his mom and Marguerite and their family friend here, Mickey Shea, are all going around to, get him his birthday cake and all of that. You do see that Eddie's kind of a little bit still upset about his situation, but Marguerite's trying her best and his mom's trying her best. And then we get this detail about his father. The last paragraph in that section, we're on page 60 here. Eddie catches his eye. His father looks down and runs his hand over the windowsill. Eddie tightens every muscle in his body and attempts by sheer will to force the tears back into their ducts. So we get the sense that there's this that Eddie's got a good family life, but there's something with his dad that's not. And if you didn't get it there, look at the next sentence. It says all parents damage their children. It can't be helped. Youth, like pristine glass, absorbs the prints of its handlers. Some parents smudge, others crack, a few shatter childhoods completely into jagged little pieces beyond repair. Now, wow, what a powerful paragraph. It's not a long paragraph. I can't stress enough to you guys, sentences, paragraphs, they don't have to be long. They just have to have the right words. And the idea that Mitch Albom conveys to us here is that as parents, we all do, we impact our kids, and often it's negative. But hopefully not like Eddie's dad, man. Eddie's dad here, it says the damage done by Eddie's father was at the beginning the damage of neglect. As an infant, Eddie was rarely held by the man, and as a child, he was mostly grabbed by the arm, less with love than with annoyance. Eddie's mother handed out the tenderness. His father was there for the discipline. So kind of a typical what you expect from that time period, even today, kind of still the way it goes. But definitely back then, you had the mom who was doting and loved her kids, and you had the dad who was a bit more of a hard butt. So it says, that you get a little bit more of the past. Eddie's dad used to take him to the pier because Eddie's dad did the same thing Eddie did. He was a mechanic at this Ruby Pier. So, but we also get a lot about Eddie wanting his dad's attention, doing the, trying to help, saying, look at me, and his dad just ignoring him, drinking a bunch, gambling, just not a good dad. We even get the idea of there being abuse involved in this family. Mitch Albom does a good job of describing that section as well. All in all, we just don't see a good relationship between him and his dad at all. All right. The last section for reading for today is more about like as Eddie got older, his dad, watching him, and again, this is a stereotyped figure, this like tough, hard, alcoholic, abusive like father. You have several types of those. You have the one that's like not involved in their kids' lives at all and just comes home to be that guy. But then you also have the one who like is involved in their kids' lives and like still you sense this sense that he's kind of proud of his, like when he's talking about them playing baseball and stuff, you see the sense that he kind of is interested in his kid. He just doesn't know how to handle this. And he's got these really high expectations that the kid just can't reach. So let's see, how did we finish this? It says, still Eddie envied the way his brother looked in the evening, so tan and clean. Eddie's fingernails, like his father's, were stained with grease, and at the dinner table, Eddie would flick them with his thumbnail, trying to get the dirt out. He caught his father watching him once, and the old man grinned. Shows you did a hard day's work, he said, and he held up his own dirty fingernails before wrapping them around a glass of beer. By this point, already a strapping teenager, Eddie only nodded back. Unbeknownst to him, he had begun the ritual of semaphore with his father, forsaking words or physical affection. It was all to be done internally. You were just supposed to know it, that's all. Denial of affection, the damage done. So we get this image of Eddie's dad actually kind of even giving him a little bit of acceptance. Because, Eddie's thinking about his brother who's a lifeguard and who's coming in tan and, been at the pool all day. And Eddie's been at this pier getting dirty and he doesn't like it. So I want you to understand, Eddie never wanted to be what he becomes. This is just it fell into his lap. So he already at this point we see as a young man, he's dissatisfied. That's the word, dissatisfied with this situation. So, okay, so as we start tomorrow, we're going to find out who the third person actually is, and it's someone that Eddie again barely even knows. But she's got a really cool story, and we'll get it tomorrow. So, again, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really liked today's message because of that lesson about sacrifice, and I hope you guys will understand that the younger you are, the more of a selfish person you are just by developmental stages. The older you get, the more you start to develop the empathy and wanting to be that sacrifice part of you comes out where you enjoy doing it. It's not a chore. Yes, it costs you something, but in the end, it makes you feel so much better to help others out. So hopefully you guys can kick that selfishness out as soon as you can and start moving more towards the self-sacrificing and reaching out to others and realizing the gift that is. All right. Okay, that'll end today. Thank you guys again for your time. This gets us through I believe, the Wednesday reading. So we got 2 more sets to do, and again, I'm going to go ahead and finish these videos and get you all 5 of them at once. So if you want to keep reading, you can. All right. Thank you guys for your time. I hope you're enjoying the book.